Welcome to another CEO Wisdom podcast with Avi Moskowitz with us today. He is CEO and co-founder of Pretty Damn Quick, Nate Figure Commerce brand founder. He's also host at Delivering Delight Pod, and he's uplifting brands with checkout and conversion and shipping revenue. So we're going to talk about a bunch of D to C topics today. It's going to be interested. Avi, I believe, is in Israel right now,
Yep,
but he's a world traveler, trendsetter. So it's going to be a fun one. Avi, can you tell us a bit more about yourself and about what you're up to nowadays?
absolutely. Yeah. So, well, first of all, thanks so much for having me on this podcast, Charles. And uh, I know that you've done a great job overall of really helping spread the word and get some really good podcasts going. My background is I've been starting up companies my whole life, and I actually took a little break from startups to do something slightly different and opened a craft beer company. If you're ever out in Israel, it's a company called Beer Bazaar. We have a brewery and locations. It's a lot of fun. And in the process of building out the brewery, we launched a Shopify store in 2020 and met COVID. And suddenly we were very busy with orders and realized that the operational side of e-commerce, which is not so much fun, is really important though when it comes to the success of e-commerce. And we built out a platform that helps manage the logistics, fulfillment, delivery for brands. And very proud today to have close to 200 brands using our platform, small brands, large brands. But basically, the solution that we provide, the way that we describe it is everybody has, virtually everybody I've met has shopped at Amazon at some point. Charles, have you ever placed an order on Amazon?
5 a day.
There you go. That's the kind of guy I'm talking about. But independent brands, have you shopped at like a regular e-commerce brand and gone onto their site and placed an order?
Yeah, well, it's not always the same experience. And also, as a consumer, you're not sure if it's going to bring the delivery to your door, if it's a scam or something.
Exactly. And you took the words out of my mouth, and you and I didn't talk about this before, but that's exactly why we built our platform. When you think about the difference between the retail store experience and e-commerce, in retail, you walk into a store, you buy something and you walk out with it. In e-commerce, you're leaving money on the counter, right? Basically, when you're checking out and you're not walking out with the product. So that leap of faith is exactly the problem that most e-commerce brands have. And it's not any one thing. It's how you communicate trust so that you get the customer to take that leap of faith and say, I'm actually going to go ahead and buy this. And Amazon, they've really built the entire business around this concept of logistics. I want to get you the product, I want to deliver it. And from the moment you step into the site, they're talking to you about when you're going to get it, how you're going to get it, how much it's going to cost. Here are the different options. And in your mind, it's almost like you have the product in your hand. That's the magic of Amazon. And then after you've ordered it once, you know what that Amazon experience is because it's not just about them making a promise about the delivery, it's about delivering on that promise. And when you do both of those things, there's magic because no one goes into Amazon, like you said, thinking, oh, I'm at checkout now. Am I going to get scammed? But in e commerce, especially for a first time shopper on e commerce, they have so many questions that haven't been answered to the up until that point. And they say, you know what? I'm not ready to pull the trigger because I have these hesitations. And because of that, we've emphasized all that the Amazon experience by communicating from the moment the customer comes into an e-commerce site that's not Amazon, an independent brand, and start communicating it accurately. It doesn't mean making the same promise to each person. It's actually the opposite of that because you can go broke, so just say free shipping and, give everybody expedite delivery and pay your delivery company for overnight shipping. We can't sustain that. The idea is that as you understand the different segments of your customer, a first time customer, returning customer, a high value customer, subscribing customer, as you start understanding that different customers get communicated differently, and take all the other variables into consideration, like where your inventory is located, how long it takes to pick and pack, what days and hours you're actually doing the picking and packing, if you're doing it yourself, if you're using a third-party logistics company. So by collecting all that data and bringing it into the customer experience, we're able to take customers who had that potential lack of trust and bring them into a place where they can trust the brand and they actually convert. And that drives significant revenues and profits. And we did it for ourselves. And now we've been doing it for brands over and over and over again.
Right. And it's a SaaS. How many active clients do you currently have?
We have about 180 active customers. Typically, our brands start at folks that are doing at least $5 or $6 million a year in revenue, but we also have brands that do as much as $300-400 million a year in revenue. And a big part of what we're doing is connecting all those different data points. The reason that Amazon does it and e-commerce doesn't isn't because people don't understand the importance of it. Anybody who's shopped at Amazon knows exactly what you're saying. And I'm sure, Charles, if you opened up an e-commerce store tomorrow, it's one of the first questions you would ask, like, how do I provide an Amazon-like experience on my store? The challenge is Amazon owns the entire stack. They actually own the warehouses, the airplanes, the cars, the trucks, the drivers, and they have one data lake that captures all that information, and that's what informs the customer experience when they go through the buying process. Regular e-commerce brands, it's all fragmented. So it's not just dozens of different data points that are all walled and separated, but it could be hundreds when you consider all the different bits of information that are collected during that ordering and fulfillment process. And we bring them all together because we've integrated with all of them. And we're able to now provide that information to influence the communication to the customer and ultimately deliver that level of confidence. But then even after we deliver the promise, just as importantly, we provide the brands with the tools to be able to fulfill and deliver those products on time as promised. And if in any instance there's a delay for whatever reason, we have all the tools that enable them to proactively notify the customer and say, look, unusual circumstances, weather, hurricane, or whatever the case may be, but letting them know before they contact you obviously is a very different customer experience that keeps customers coming back.
What do you have in terms of growth on the map this year? Like, where do you want to focus your efforts to take your current 150-ish customer to 450?
Yeah. I mean, so when you think about it, as a startup in the e-commerce world, um, there are a few things, that you consider as you grow your business. Number one, we always stand in the shoes of the merchants. Um, Being empathetic and being aligned with where the merchant is at any point in time is so critical to our success because it's obviously a very dynamic space. New delivery options come up all the time. The market itself changes dramatically. 2023 was a very difficult year for brands. Um, if you align yourself with the brand, and we're fortunate in that we ourselves have a brand, we know and we can see it from our own perspective. What are the challenges we have, and how do we help a brand succeed? So for 2023, we shifted our focus, which previously was operational efficiencies. How do we help you manage your operation more efficiently? We shifted from that into how do we grow your revenues and how do we increase your profitability? And as it turns out, what I described as the delivery promise, when you capture the delivery promise and you really end up managing and implementing it the correct way, it'll drive all those key metrics that are so important to a successful e-commerce business, like LTV, returning customers, margins, all those key factors. So in 2023, that was a big driver. In 2024, we're going to continue with that theme because we keep getting surprised ourselves by how much small changes can have a major influence on a brand. And it's not unusual. I just got off a call with one of our brands where small adjustment that we did, we ran an A/B test and checkout. We made small wording adjustment, and it was a $68,000 uplift for the brand. And it's very typical for us. And a big part of this is being able to influence the customer behavior, ultimately getting them to convert and making sure that you're making money on every single order that can drive significant revenue. So we see 24 as being an extension of 23. We had an incredibly successful year. We increased our customer base 7 times, 7x over the course of the year. So it was an incredible growth spurt. And now, in addition to continuing to provide value to our existing customers, we're extending our product feature set, and ultimately, we want to be that definitive platform the same way that customers today don't think twice. If you're opening an e-commerce store, you go to Shopify as really that's your go-to. You swipe a credit card and you can start selling product almost immediately. We want people to think of PDQ as this is the operational component of if you're going to have e-commerce, which is the digital world, you need to have something that connects the digital world with the physical world of logistics, fulfillment, and delivery. And that's what PDQ is about.
How do you decide which market to attack first, how to expand, how to lead A/B testing in terms of market, and which one to continue investing efforts in, and the ones to just remove yourself from?
Yeah, it's a great question, Charles. And there are a couple of different um, considerations when we look at a go-to-market strategy. Number one, I would say Shopify, besides now being kind of the de facto platform that people consider for e-commerce, it also is a very efficient ecosystem for growth because when you're successful, um, the it's just word spreads in so many ways because co-founders, founders, the folks that start these companies, the entrepreneurs, they're very happy to share what's working for them and also what's not working for them. So we found that to be an incredibly efficient environment in terms of impacting customers. What we've been able to do is, as an example, look at the perishables market. Perishables are like ice cream, fish, cookies, flowers, plants. These are places where delivery promise is particularly problematic because of all the things you need to consider. You need to understand your production capability, where the inventory is located, how fast you can get it to a customer. Those are all things that we've solved for. We have this incredibly powerful calendar that lets the customer pick exactly when they're going to get the item and only showing them the options that are relevant based on production, where the location is. We can let them have the order delivered from the closest inventory location. There's a lot that gets factored in, but by going deep into perishables, for example, we've been able to provide great brands like Levain cookies, probably the best cookie anywhere, and brands like Easy Plant that has this great plant product that's delivered all over the country. It never dies. It's incredible, and we really help them in every aspect of that business. And Jenny's Ice Cream, another great brand, and Sizzle Fish and All Fresh fish or seafoods. These are all brands that are in the perishable space that have a lot of complexity, and it can get very expensive because all their products have a shelf life, and either you don't sell it because you don't realize that you're able to get it delivered on time, or you try and deliver it, but it doesn't get delivered on time, and then you have spoilage. So um, that's a space that's like a no-brainer. But as you start looking at brands, and the reason I mentioned, brands doing $5 million or more is because you typically need enough volume of orders to feel the kind of pain that we're solving on the one hand, and on the other hand, the optimizations that we're providing. where we're driving increased revenue and increased conversion, all those things obviously have a much bigger effect as the volume is higher. So we like to be able to show significant value, and that begins with slightly larger customers. And the way to get those customers is education is a very important part of what we do. Like podcasts like this is important for us to be able to explain the thesis, which I think we all know in our head. The basic thesis that there's a correlation between that whole delivery experience, promising and also delivering on that promise. There's a correlation between that and actual dollars, the actual, bottom line impact on your business. And that's been a message that we continue to communicate through data by showing, actual proof of the results that we're seeing and trying to get more and more people to be able to benefit from it so that they don't have to work as hard to get the results they need to have a successful e-commerce brand.
How are you using the podcast to drive insights, connections, and potential clients?
Yeah, so I think that there's this general maybe misunderstanding of how you win customers in the e-commerce space. I think a lot of people are still using, legacy approaches to sales, which is let me call the founder on the phone, or let me try and target them directly. And maybe there's a place for that and there's a time for that, but for the most part, what we've seen is you have to be willing to start with an attitude of how can I help you? Um, and for us, our conversations almost always start that way. Is there a particular challenge you're having now? Is there some way that we're able to help you? We identify ourselves as experts in logistics, fulfillment, and delivery because we're doing this every day for ourselves. We've been involved in delivering millions of packages to date, and that's our volume currently. So we have that experience, and if you don't lead by selling, but you lead by saying, "I'm sure there's something I can help you with," and typically you'll find a way to be able to provide value, and that's how you build a relationship with a brand. For example, just recently, actually, what originally started through one of our blogs or some kind of educational material, a customer reached out to us and said, "We're just struggling because for some reason our orders are not getting delivered. We have subscriptions and they're not getting delivered to a customer." And it's unusual because Shopify actually has reasonable address validation and checking. And it turned out it was a collection of problems, some of which related to 9-digit zip codes. Some of it was that the 3PL was cutting off part of the label, but it was a problem that was costing them thousands of dollars a month. And we don't make money on solving it for them, but it does build goodwill and it helps continue cementing our position as being experts in this domain. So there is a general concept in our small community of e-commerce brands, and it's big, but it's still, I say it's small because it's tight more than small, where there's this awareness that help each other. Maybe there isn't something that each of us can do for each other today, but if we can find a way to be helpful, then somewhere down the line, hopefully we can show the value and justify a stronger and broader relationship.
Right. And what else do you have on your plate as a serial entrepreneur and a human being? Like, what routine do you execute on a daily basis to optimize yourself and make sure that you're in the right state to help your various businesses?
Yeah, it's a great question, and I think any leader, or anybody that's trying to be a leader, will always have more balls in the air than they're able to actually juggle. We always end up taking on more than we possibly can handle, and part of that is, especially when you enter a new space, and I would say e-commerce, even though it's relatively established, it's still only 15 or so years old. Um, there's still a lot of learning. And when you're in that space, my approach personally is to try and have as many irons in the fire as possible. Don't limit yourself in terms of a go-to-market strategy and say I'm only going to do X or Y. but try and have as many activities in place as you possibly can. I strongly encourage people to do that, and that means just more hours in the day, usually, until you figure out what's working and then lean into that. But also learning how to delegate. Of course, one of the most important things in any business is the team that you have and how you cultivate, and nurture, and hopefully mentor a team so that they're able to rise to their full potential and contribute in ways that will surprise you. Um, and it's said a lot, but I think it's really important to try and be surrounded by people who are smarter than you, maybe not in the areas that you're strongest at, but that can supplement the different parts of business. Because when you're moving fast, and we didn't call our company Pretty Damn Quick for nothing. When you're moving really quickly, you need to know that the team that you have with you is able to move at the same speed and velocity and be agile and be ready to agile and be able to adjust and maneuver as the market changes. So I'd say a typical day for me, a lot of it is setting it up so that the priorities are clear and choosing to spend time on the right things, making sure that you've set your team up for success with the right tools and details and as much information as possible so that they're able to execute on their day. And I really do look at things on a day by day basis. I say this a lot, but it's one day at a time. Of course, we have a vision and a roadmap, but the way you build success is by making every day as successful as possible. And organizing the day, of course, keeping yourself healthy and exercising. And if you can't take care of yourself, you certainly can't take care of anybody else. So, first and foremost, making sure that you're in the right mindset, you've got the right approach to the day, you've got the right balance of optimism and reality, and you take care of yourself physically. But combine those things, and I certainly continue to listen to other folks. It's not just about me speaking, but there's a lot to be learned from the people that were there before. Maybe someone that's just a few years ahead of me that is where we're trying to get to, and listening to their trials and tribulations and learnings. And so I do read a lot and listen to a lot, and try and incorporate whatever there is. There you could find yourself in a situation where you say you follow one guru or one real business success, person, pick a person and say, wow, I want to follow them. I find that there's a lot more to learn by having a diverse group of business leaders who are successful, and take the best of them and the things that resonate with you and you're able to apply, and apply them. And small changes every day add up. But that's how I would that's how I approach my day, and I love what I do. I think that's also really important, is that you be passionate. I'm very lucky that I found a problem that I had to solve for myself. I, and I fell in love with the idea, and the ability to help other brands and merchants be successful. There's something very rewarding in knowing that I can be part of other people's success.
The recent event with Hamas and Israel, how did you deal with that, and how do you see
Mhm.
the future of the country moving forward?
Yeah, look, we were all in shock. October 6th, everything was fine, and we had a lot of plans for the end of the year for our business, and everything changed on October 7th. I have to say that I even have the mental capacity for absorbing what actually happened. It took us quite a while to get out of that shock. I'd say even today we kind of live in a new reality, but just today, someone on our team lost three of his friends, who are defending the country, and it affects our company in so many ways. We have a team leader on the customer success side who hasn't been back since October 7th, and he's defending the country. And we find ourselves in a situation where we live within the reality of trying to make trying to make the world a better place. And when you look at what Israel's offered the world, whether it's Intel, Microsoft, Google, and virtually any product that you pick up. And we're very much, we feel very much a responsibility as a people to be a light unto the world, to contribute in a good way. And we raise our kids that way, and we live a life that can contribute in the best way possible. And there's nothing more than we want than to live in peace with our neighbors. And we've made peace with our neighbors, and we've offered pretty much anything and everything to get to that place. But at a certain point in time, when your existence is threatened, you need to defend yourself. And I'm confident that light will prevail over darkness. And, it'll be very clear at some point that this was a war that we did not choose. We're defending ourselves, and we're doing the best we possibly can, not just defending ourselves, but defending what's right. And anybody who's taken time to look at the horrific events of October 7th, and it's unfathomable. It's barbaric. It goes beyond anything that I can possibly have even imagined. And I'm a child of Holocaust survivors. My mother went through Auschwitz. She went through an experience that, for her, and the way she described it to us, was, unimaginable. And this even shocked me. And I went to visit Poland, and I went to see all the camps, and I went to see it with my own eyes. And there's nothing, everything that's happened there in terms of what you see here in some way pales, maybe not in terms of the numbers, but in terms of the horrific nature of the violence that was perpetrated. So obviously for us, that's our focus. We want to be able to get back, and everybody wants to get back to day-to-day life, but we're all affected by it. We're all impacted. And what we've tried to do is support the farmers. A lot of the country is built on agriculture. So there are 80,000 people that were displaced up north. So their farms and agriculture have not been able to be taken care of, and down south in a similar way. This country's built a lot on export of agriculture. So we've been able to use the brewery as a location because we're central in the country, where during the course of the week, we have trucks that drive around to each of these farms, collect all the goods, and we have a farmer's market every Friday, and thousands of people come to support these farmers because they're not able to sell on their own. And everybody's trying to do their own little bit to try and provide support where needed. There are many families where the husbands aren't home because they're out defending. We're a small country. The people don't realize, because we're in the news, and Israel's so highlighted in terms of like a world power, but we're only 9 million Jews in Israel. If you took a football field and you dropped a match, that's the proportion to which we are in the world. We're tiny, but clearly we capture a lot of attention. So we're doing the best we can to get through the situation. We're confident that we will. That at the end, good will prevail over evil. I think anybody who takes time to study the facts, look at what's been going on, look at history, and takes the time to really learn and understand history. If you're a student of history, you will come to understand what this story is about. And it's simple. It's just good versus evil. It's not complicated. I know people are making it complicated. It's really not complicated. So I welcome anybody to, of course, engage me in a conversation. I'm happy to share. Many people who are taking positions on the conflict have never been to Israel, and obviously that's a factor. If you come to Israel, you can see it with your own eyes. You'll see, that this coexistence. I had a bike accident a few years ago. The leading surgeon was an Arab. We have people that work with us on a regular basis. We're integrated in society. It's and we've accomplished a lot as a democracy in terms of tolerance, in terms of rights for all people, regardless of who they are. And we've become a melting pot for all kinds of countries and all kinds of immigrants that have come to our country. And it's something that needs to be recognized, because at the end of the day, this problem, this conflict can be resolved in a minute if Hamas were to say, we're laying down on our weapons and we surrender, we're done. And it'd be over in a moment. But that's not their interest. They're here to be agitators. They're here to do what they did on October 7th, and they've said it. They just want to do it over and over and over again. So um, we're not dealing with a people who sees a future in their children, who says, I want my children to be better and have a better, more opportunities and have a better life than I had. I can tell you that my parents, who went through a horrific chapter in human history when they emigrated from Europe into America. They didn't come to America as refugees. They came to America as a land of opportunities, and they wanted each of their children to get educated and to be able to have professions and be successful so that they can contribute the world in the best way possible. Unfortunately, that's not Hamas. Hamas is using babies as human shields, is using children put to put suicide vests on. This is not about the future being better. This is about you become a shaheed. If you die, you martyr yourself. That's the best thing that's the best outcome you can have. And honestly, that's a hard thing to trump, right? How do you, if you tell someone that by dying, it's the best outcome possible, it's hard to compete with any other alternative. Financial or any other outcome is not going to compete with that. And that's really what we're challenged by. So unfortunately, it has to be eradicated. It can't be negotiated with. We just have to eliminate it and then give the people of Gaza the opportunity to rebuild a life with, well, again, they had the opportunity. We withdrew from Gaza, gave them the land, self-governing capability. Unfortunately, they voted for Hamas. They chose the wrong party to do this. Hamas turned the entire Gaza into a terror tunnel city, a city just filled with tunnels and of terror. And now, hopefully, there'll be an opportunity for them to choose life and a future and a better future for their children than terrorism.
Thanks for that. Where can people find out more about you, Avi?
I'm on LinkedIn and very active and happy to be helpful and share in any which way. Avi Moskowitz on LinkedIn. You can check out Pretty Damn Quick. We're active on Twitter. And you can feel free to reach out really for anything to chat, or if you have any questions related to e-commerce and or anything that I might be able to be helpful with.